A second suspect in the Morgan State mass shooting has been arrested. What we're learning about his criminal background. A mother calls 911 during a home break-in and has to wait over an hour for help.
It was just like the action of needing to protect my children.
We make her voice heard as she relives the terrifying moments.
It does not make me feel comfortable living here.
Maryland's teachers union spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on travel. Fox 45 News Project Baltimore questions if this spending is helping to improve your child's education. A city councilman is put under the microscope. Why his purchase of 2 vacant homes is raising red flags.
Tracking threats of heavy rain as we get closer to Thanksgiving, I'm breaking down the impact to your travel plans.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Breaking at this hour, a heavy police presence is on Walbrook Avenue in West Baltimore near Mondawmin Mall.
We are hearing unconfirmed reports of a shooting there. Fox 45 News has a crew on scene. We'll keep you updated on air, online, as soon as we learn more. But we do see police crime scene tape up there at that location. Well, a second suspect has been arrested in connection with the Morgan State University mass shooting, 18-year-old Javon Williams.
He was named a suspect after the shooting and detained in D.C. on Friday. Fox 45's Jeff Abel will have more on the investigation in a moment. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. We begin with what is expected to be a hectic travel week as heavy rain could dampen the Thanksgiving commute for millions across our area.
Let's go right to Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers.
Yeah, and guys, tomorrow a big problem day. In fact, already, this is for tidal flooding. A coastal flood warnings in effect for tomorrow night into early Wednesday. Moderate coastal flooding around the area of Annapolis. Could even see the Maritime.
Mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon turning up the pressure on Mayor Scott as both have now officially launched their campaigns. During an endorsement of Sheila Dixon last week, Councilman Eric Costello said he had never seen this level of dysfunction within City Hall. Dixon backed up those claims today on Fox 45 News.
I have to deal with the city on a regular basis with my clients, and I can see the dysfunction, not in one agency, but practically in every agency. And that is reflected of the leadership, you know, and it's reflected in who you hire, the people that work for you. I've never seen city government so dysfunctional. As it is now.
Well, Fox 45 News has reached out to Mayor Scott for a one-on-one interview. He has refused our invitations. He did talk.
The city could meet that goal this year. Baltimore surpassed 300 homicides each of his first 2 years. Now, many attribute that drop in homicides this year to the partnership between City State's Attorney Ivan Bates and U.S. Attorney from Maryland, Eric Barron. Both promised a tougher on-crime approach in the city. Since that partnership began, homicides are down 20% and non-fatal shootings are down 9%. The mayor addressed that claim.
I love them both dearly. Their cases are made by police officers that work for Brandon Scott, the mayor of Baltimore City. We direct. The arrests are done by us. All the enforcement is done by us.
The mayor, smart politically, will take credit for this stuff because when you're running for re-election and numbers are going down, you want to hang a star on it.
Mayor Scott has faced a few controversies, though, in the past several months, including within the city's flagship gun violence intervention program. In September 2022, the mayor announced a major shift in oversight and management of safe streets. That left city council members outraged, saying the Scott administration didn't tell them about the change. They found out through the media. Mayor Scott also promised to return to weekly recycling pickup by February of next year. But DPW now says the city will miss that deadline due to staffing shortages and a lack of working trash trucks. Last December, Scott raised eyebrows when he accepted a $5,000 campaign donation from longtime city contractor J.P. Grant. Days later, reports showed a company, Grant Finances, was awarded $12 million in city contracts. Now, a recent Goucher poll released in October shows Dixon has a lead over Mayor Scott. She had 39% of voter support compared to 27% for Mayor Scott. 23% of people would support another candidate. Last week, we asked our viewers who they would vote for in a hypothetical mayoral primary. 92% of people who responded said Sheila Dixon.
The mayor is also facing questions about city grants given to the organization run by his girlfriend, who's the mother of his unborn child. Hannah Pugh runs Be More Empowered, which has received $50,000 from the city's Boost program. Mayor Scott sits on the Board of Estimates, and his office didn't confirm whether he sat out the decision to award those grants. The mayor isn't the only city leader facing ethics concerns. According to the Baltimore Banner, Councilmember Zeke Cohen revealed he's working with Open Society Foundations, a group founded by George Soros. Cohen stands by his work. Well, now Fox 45 News is looking into recent real estate purchases that Councilman Robert Stokes has made. Mackenzie Frost has the story.
Councilman Robert Stokes bought 2 vacant homes from the city in 2022, but he didn't disclose them on his ethics filings. We wanted to know why.
Good morning.
During the city spending board meeting in August of 2022,
all in favor, please say aye. Aye. And all those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The routine agenda has been adopted.
City Councilman Robert Stokes getting the green light to purchase 2 dilapidated vacant homes the city owned for 2 decades. Those homes in the Oliver community and along Broadway on a crisp Monday morning. The sound of home renovation fills the air as building material is carted inside. The property's now under the ownership of an LLC Stokes has a 49% ownership of. The company, North and Broadway Aquo LLC, seen here on his 2022 ethics disclosure, described as an entity formed for real estate ownership purposes. But the 2 vacant homes Stokes bought for $18,000 total, absent from that disclosure.
A big concern that I have is property ownership.
David Williams is a taxpayer watchdog. He argues these disclosure forms are key for transparency. Elected leaders are required to disclose any business they may have on the side outside of holding office. They're also required to disclose spousal income, property investments, or other boards they may serve on.
There is a huge question of conflict of interest as to how much they're paying for it, their involvement in development companies, and just how much they're going to profit from these properties.
Reached by text message, Councilman Stokes says he did not omit anything from his 2022 disclosure. Rather, there was nothing to report because he did not close on those homes until February of this year. Stokes' business partner in his company, Ernst Valerie. Valerie also runs Aquo Fund, which is an entity that invests in Black, brown, women, and immigrant real estate developers. Stokes did not do an interview with Fox 45 News, but says he's excited about buying and supporting a community in my district by rehabbing vacant buildings that were a blight in the community. The ethics board says whenever a property is sold and finalized, that's when it should appear on someone's disclosure. Councilman Robert Stokes tells me he intends to disclose these latest properties on his 2023 filings, which are due in January. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Are city leaders prioritizing themselves or citizens? So far, 91% of those who voted say themselves. You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Just click on that Pulse tab.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, a Baltimore mother shares a terrifying story. She came face to face with a group of young people who broke into her home. Why, she says, her calls to police fell on deaf ears. Baltimore City Council is considering legislation that would raise the minimum wage for tipped workers in the city. How that move, according to some, could hurt the industry. And Project Baltimore is uncovering how Maryland's largest teachers union is spending millions of dollars, and it's not on students, where that money is going, and why some say it's being misused.
Tonight, more eye-opening findings coming out of Project Baltimore's investigation into how Maryland's largest teachers union is spending its money that typically starts as your tax dollars.
Well, Chris Papps has found the Maryland State Education Association has spent millions of dollars in recent years on just one thing.
For years, we have heard the same message from many public officials.
We made the largest investment in public education by any governor in our state's history.
That Maryland public schools need more money.
To help empower educators have the resources they need to focus on learning and student success.
But a Project Baltimore investigation found, while many say schools don't have enough money, the state's largest teachers union seems to have plenty. According to its federal nonprofit filings last year, the Maryland State Education Association spent $509,000 just on travel expenses. And that amount does not include conferences, conventions, and meetings, which was another $35,000.
There is no justification to spend $500,000 a year on travel. The receipts need to be provided.
David Williams is with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance.
And this money is going to the unions. It's not ultimately getting to the kids. And the stated purpose of the union is to help the children.
In the last 10 years, the union has spent a lot on travel. In fact, $509,000 is on the low end. In 2013, the union spent $543,000 on travel expenses. By 2016, that number topped $1.1 million on just traveling in 2016. During the COVID years, the numbers did come down, but the union still managed to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on travel as schools were shut down. In all, over the last decade, the union spent nearly $6.5 million on travel expenses. That comes out to an average of more than $53,000 a month, every month, for 10 straight years. How does that fulfill the union's tax-exempt mission to elevate the quality of education for students? All of that travel is in addition to what Project Baltimore has been reporting over the past week, that MSEA revenues and assets have hit record levels. At least 11 union employees made more than $200,000 last year in compensation. And this is happening as test scores in our state are steadily declining.
Teachers are always complaining that they don't have enough supplies. The union could take millions of dollars that they have and buy supplies for the teachers to make the kids have a better educational experience. The unions are failing the kids, they're failing the state.
Maryland's legislature in 2021 passed the largest education spending increase in state history. The blueprint for Maryland's future had strong support from the teachers union. Union President Cheryl Bost was even appointed to the blueprint's Accountability and Implementation Board.
Provide more for our students, more career technology education, teacher salaries, support for those students who are living in concentrated poverty.
The blueprint pumps billions of additional tax dollars into public education, but many county leaders are saying they can't afford to pay for it.
Yeah.
Harford County Executive Bob Casserly told FOX45, unless the law is revised, either taxes will have to go up or other services will be cut.
It threatens to really derail our county's finances.
And as many local counties say, they don't have enough money to implement the plan. The teachers union is spending on average $53,000 a month on travel, while amassing a record-setting $45 million in assets.
Let's face it, these travel expenses, they're just a drop in the bucket. They just sort of epitomize what that this union structure has always been about, this union structure, not about teachers, not about students, not about the quality of education.
Project Baltimore, over the past few weeks, has repeatedly reached out to the union and its top officials. We have specifically asked how spending millions of dollars on travel help students, but the union appears to be ignoring us. We have not received any reply, but we'll keep trying. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
The City Council is calling for an informational hearing on how the Baltimore City public school system is paying vendors. It comes months after one educational vendor, Temple X Schools, claimed the school system owed them tens of thousands of dollars in unpaid bills. The group's founder and activist group Act Now Baltimore called for the city to reevaluate its procurement process.
The goal here is to actually show that we can do problem solving by lifting the people's voices, hearing from them, and presenting something to schools where we can work together.
It's not about our relationship with them. It's about the process of obtaining the funds that's needed to continue the operations that the vendors agree to do.
The Baltimore City school system has denied those claims, saying it paid invoices on time. It's not clear when the council will hold its hearing into the matter.
Coming up, a new initiative in the search to find Rachel Morin's killer. How her family attorneys hope California high schools can get involved.
Harford County leaders are at odds over a letter asking the county to accept migrants from New York. Why they're exchanging words despite being on the same side of the issue.
And travel plans late this evening into early tomorrow. Well, there could be some delays at some airports. A lot of them are looking okay, even though we got some pretty bad weather across the southern and central portion and Tennessee Valley portion of the country. Delays now at Dallas as well as at the Houston airport hubs. Otherwise, everybody else on time on the charts. Now, you take a look at the two-day planner. If you're hitting the roads, rain tomorrow on and off around here. Going to be a real mess, especially tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. Dries out on Wednesday, so better travel there. I'm going to let you know how long that lasts and if it's going to be nice for Thanksgiving in my Weather Authority forecast.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. And calm looking at our inner harbor right now, but as Jonathan just said, things are going to start to be different tomorrow. Let's find out how Thanksgiving will look. But tomorrow, pretty soggy apparently. Back in a moment. The law firm representing Rachel Morin's family is asking Los Angeles area high schools to hand out flyers with her suspected killer's picture on it. Police say DNA from the scene of Morin's killing is linked to a crime in Los Angeles where a suspect is captured on security camera footage during an apparent break-in and assault in California. Local law enforcement insists the case hasn't gone cold, and the Morin family attorney says they aren't giving up.
This has not been as prevalent in California as it has been in Maryland. We decided we're going to go straight to the doorsteps of the individuals that live around the house in Los Angeles County where the crime occurred back in March.
The family's legal team created a digital campaign to help Spanish-speaking residents become more familiar with the case. The reward for information leading to an arrest is now $30,000.
Former College Park Mayor Patrick Wohan has been sentenced to 30 years in prison on child porn charges. He was arrested in March after a tip that somebody in the county was distributing child pornography. He pleaded guilty to more than 60 counts of distribution and 40 counts of possession. Wohan resigned shortly before his arrest.
Well, ahead at 10:30, a brazen burglary in Canton has residents on edge. One woman's account of thieves breaking into her house.
And Baltimore City restaurant workers could soon have minimum wage. Why some workers are pushing back on the proposal.
We're following three big stories at 10:30 tonight. Baltimore eclipses 10,000 car thefts on the year as Kia and Hyundai models face a lawsuit over safety features in the cars, while a federal court denied the company's request to have the lawsuit thrown out.
The Baltimore City Council reportedly considering a bill to raise the minimum wage for tipped workers. Why a similar plan in another city as people questioning the strategy? A spree of burglaries in Canton as thieves breaking through deck areas of houses has some residents on edge.
It's just like everything you hear that happens around here. It's like teenagers just terrorizing the neighborhood.
And we begin there. A Baltimore mother says her calls to police fell on deaf ears as her home was broken into.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has her testimony as some begin to question Baltimore police's response time.
I'm really struggling with feeling comfortable in our house.
On a typically quiet street in the heart of Canton.
I was half asleep, didn't think much of it.
Friday night rumblings inside a young family's row home initially ignored.
My husband was out celebrating a friend's birthday. Probably 11:30, I heard what sounded like my husband coming back.
Mere moments after tucking her children into bed.
She was having a nightmare, so I brought her upstairs.
A mother of two girls, ages 1 and 3, who asked we not show her face.
I just don't want them to know what I look like. And
suddenly coming face to face with a nightmare of her own.
I saw through the glass door where our bed faces a body drop down from the high roof.
A group of masked men dressed in black breaking in from above and through the back door.
We made eye contact. He was a teen, 16, 17 at most.
Without hesitation, the mother grabbing her daughters, barricading them in a second-floor bedroom and calling 911 for help.
I really had no time to really think. It was just like the action of needing to protect my children.
But she says that help.
They didn't think this was an urgent matter.
Was over an hour away.
How in the world would it, does it take that long to when it was like an active burglary?
Several neighbors living along Hudson and Decker Street sharing similar stories on social media. One writing, "I heard them on my roof. I was so scared I bolted out of bed." Another sharing this surveillance video of a suspected intruder hopping from house to house.
I later learned that we had several neighbors that had made 3 911 calls prior to the break-in because they saw it all happening. They saw these kids jumping walls and jumping in and out of backyards and then scaling up to people's roof decks.
How can residents feel safe when a break-in happens and it takes police an hour to respond, especially a mother with young children inside?
Yeah, so I spoke to both Major Saunders, who's the major for Southeast, as well as Commissioner Worley, just to express my incredible concern.
Canton's Councilman Zeke Cohen claiming BPD leadership assuring him they'd be investigating the incident.
Any response that takes that long is just completely unacceptable.
But BPD spokesperson Lindsay Eldridge sending Fox 45 a statement this afternoon reading in part, quote, "We responded to the scene as quickly as possible." Eldridge going on to claim the suspect was able to enter the home through an unlocked door and sent a video on burglary prevention.
An hour police response time is deplorable. It's just horrible.
Upgrades to their home security system was this family's first response, especially knowing when minutes matter. The quickest police response could be over an hour away.
It does not make me feel comfortable living here knowing that that's how long it takes to get help when you really need it.
From Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, the city's response to crime has some residents coming to their own defense. This weekend, police say a man chased a 16-year-old who attempted to steal his car in Southeast Baltimore. That victim apparently held down the teen until police arrived and arrested him. Last week, police say a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old were shot by someone who were attempting to rob them at gunpoint. But the victims aren't always able to hold the suspects down. This summer, 57-year-old Daryl Benner was shot and killed steps from his home in Canton after trying to intervene with suspects who were stealing his nephew's car.
He did take his final breath laying in my lap. Covered in blood.
You should always be situationally aware, but the fact is it's really hard to defend against a crime when you're, going about your day and a car rolls up and comes to a stop behind you, and then within 10 seconds you're surrounded by people with handguns.
Well, experts say a city police shortage is partly to blame for a lack of officers, leading to a slower response time in many incidents.
Well, 2 people are hurt after a shooting in West Baltimore. Happened just before 9 o'clock tonight at the intersection of North Monroe Street and Walbrook Avenue. Police say a 33-year-old and a 50-year-old man were shot. Their conditions not clear at this time. We led our newscast tonight with this breaking news. Anybody with information is asked to call police or Metro Crime Stoppers.
City police data shows Baltimore has passed 10,000 car thefts this year. Amid that surge, the city joined a lawsuit with several other cities against Kia and Hyundai models, saying that their software makes it easy for those cars to be stolen. Today, the Baltimore City Council unanimously passed a resolution calling on Kia and Hyundai to recall their cars until the software has been upgraded.
Well, this comes as a federal court denied an appeal from Kia and Hyundai to have the lawsuit dismissed, saying the companies created public nuisances by not installing industry standard safety software in their cars. Mayor Scott says he remains committed to accountability for all involved, including those stealing cars. He says the rise in auto thefts is largely driven by those companies. Residents who spoke to Fox 45 News telling us the mayor should be focused on going after criminals rather than companies.
The city of Baltimore should be responsible as well for the amount of theft.
They're catering to the children. They're catering to the lawbreakers. There's enough of this going on that the families, the community, the law. The mayor need to do something.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you feel safe in Baltimore? So far, 98% of people who voted say no. You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote.
The Baltimore City Council is considering legislation to raise the minimum wage for tipped workers in the city after a similar proposal was approved in D.C. Fox 45's Amy Simpson.
Prices for customers.
We had to be smart about it.
Now news of another possible challenge on the horizon. As a source inside Baltimore City Hall tells Fox 45 News, there's legislation being drafted to increase the city's minimum wage for tipped workers. Right now, Maryland's tipped wage sits at $3.63 an hour.
It's going to put a hurting on a lot of restaurants. The guests will assume that they're getting paid $15 an hour. They will not tip. And in 90% of the situations, that means that that server will be making less than they did before.
This event page also seen online, titled Bill Introduction for One Fair Wage in Baltimore, scheduled for Wednesday night, December 6th, inviting people to join efforts to raise the hourly tipped wage to the state's minimum wage. But right now, no agenda item for this is on council's calendar.
3 times this year alone, this type of legislation has been defeated because of the overwhelming opposition from tipped employees.
The Restaurant Association of Maryland says similar efforts statewide, plus in both Montgomery and Prince George's counties, prompted hundreds of tipped workers to speak out.
They are looking to save their tips, and they're looking to keep the current tipping system in place. The reason being, they earn significantly more than minimum wage.
The Employment Policies Institute also predicting a failed attempt here.
The reason they have failed repeatedly is because tipped workers have shown up in opposition to what they're trying to do. And I expect something very similar is going to happen in Baltimore.
As this small business in Little Italy says it would feel the impact.
I think to just wave a wand and say this is how we're going to do it for everybody, I think that's a big mistake.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News reached out to the council member allegedly drafting this bill. We'd like to know what the proposal will say and when it's being introduced. So far, we've not heard back.
Hartford County lawmakers weighing in on some confusion over a letter sent to them regarding a request to house hundreds of migrants. Last week, a group of hotel and motel owners asked if they'd be allowed to house migrants from New York at their facilities in Hartford County. That request led to a letter from County Councilman Aaron Penman to County Executive Bob Castle calling for him to deny the migrants' move to Maryland. Both are opposed to the idea, but Castle says Penman wrongly claimed he did support it.
Yeah, look, this is a councilman this is his, I think, fourth false allegation against my administration. He's got some vendettas he's pursuing, and that's unfortunate. This is not the kind of matter that you ought to be just throwing around and playing politics with. This is very serious.
At no point did I say the county executive would be in support of undocumented immigrants coming to our county. That was in my press release. I just wanted the community to weigh in on it, because what I didn't want is buses coming in the middle of the night and undocumented immigrants getting off at our local hotels. I thought it should be a conversation with the community.
Penman went on to say that infrastructure issues within the county is one of the reasons he's opposed to allowing migrants to come in. At least 12 people are dead after an Israeli airstrike hit Gaza's largest hospital. The IDF claims Hamas headquarters was built below the hospital and has been launching attacks on it for nearly a week. IDF says they have found weapons throughout the hospital, in MRI rooms and main hallways. This comes as CNN reports 28 premature babies were evacuated from Gaza's hospital to Egypt, where they are getting care tonight.
White House officials say they're closer to a deal to have hostages held by Hamas released.
We have made progress in trying to secure a deal in conversation with our Qatari partners and, of course, in conversation with the government of Israel. But I can't speak to the underlying details of those negotiations.
The State Department says American hostages are their top priority, but it's unclear who would be released and at what time.
It may be a muted celebration today as President Biden turns 81. I'm Christine Frizzell with a look at how his age and other factors are playing into his bid to win a second term.
And just a sign of things to come, tidal flooding going to be a problem over the next couple of days. For tomorrow night, a coastal flood warning in effect for Anne Arundel County, Annapolis. You could get some water. Sandbagging probably going to be underway tomorrow into tomorrow night. I'm going to let you know how much rain we're going to see coming from the skies for your Tuesday travels for Thanksgiving. My Weather Authority forecast.